Tuscumbia.
Welcome back, and I am so proud to tell you folks at home that we have two ladies that were in World War II. My father was in World War II, so I've been carried away with that war. I wasn't alive at that time, but I want to welcome Doris Whitten-Smith and Doris Whitten-Cox.
Dorothy Whitten.
Dorothy, I'm sorry, thank you so much. Doris and Dorothy. And I must say that Dorothy is the mother of Bill Cox, and your daughter-in-law is Corey Cox, and she owns the City Restaurant in downtown Tuscumbia. Right. And that's how I discovered you two. I was speaking with her briefly a week or so ago, and I was looking for some folks that were in World War II, and she said, I've got just the two ladies. And she described you as being beautiful and intelligent, and you'd be perfect for television, and you are. Thank you for coming tonight. Now, I understand that we have some great pictures that we're going to pop up. And do tell us, before we get into these pictures, when did you first get drafted?
Well, we really weren't drafted. We volunteered.
Oh, you volunteered? Fantastic.
Actually, we were going to Florence State Teachers College, and my brother lived in Anniston, Alabama, and we went to Anniston to work during the war. It was, we had to take, we could take commercial courses, like typewriting, shorthand, all that, which you couldn't before being in first year. So we went to Anniston and lived with my brother and went to work at Anniston Ordnance Depot and attended USO clubs.
USO,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, and then a recruiter came over from Birmingham, and three of us decided that we would join the Ways.
And this was in 1945? 1945? The war was already going on.
Well, it was almost over.
Yeah, we were
she went down, she and his friend, one day, and I decided they would not leave me, so I went the next day.
You didn't want to get left behind.
That's right.
So you joined one day and you the next.
And then we worked, they didn't call us right away. In fact, we went to, it was let's see, we were recruiting. About 3 months later, they called us, and we went to New Orleans. First time I ever been there. I rode a train in New Orleans and was inducted. And came back, and it was 3 months later when we were called, actually, to go...
March of 45.
To go to
March of 45. Were you scared or just excited?
Excited.
Excited.
More excited, yeah. I know you're twins. You're not identical twins.
No.
But I'm glad you dressed alike today, and you do look a lot alike. I guess it's just the family resemblance.
I'm 2 hours older than she.
2 hours older, okay. You brought some great pictures. We're going to pop up and let's discuss those, and we'll come back and talk more about the war. Here are this is the two of you, and this was taken when, ladies?
That in 45, late 45 or 46.
During the time you were in
Washington.
Okay, and that two on which side for the folks at home? On our left side is
Dorothy. Looking at from here, Dorothy.
Dorothy Whitten-Cox on the left, Bill and Corey Cox's mother and mother-in-law, and on the right we have Doris Whitten-Smith, and this was taken 1945, thereabouts.
46, yes.
1945 or 6. You look absolutely gorgeous. I bet at the USO you had more dances than you could handle.
Well,
we had a good time.
Fantastic. And the next shot, oh, that's pretty. Now tell us about that.
Okay, there were 6 of us that we went in groups. There were 6 of us that worked together, lived together, and ran around together. We went on weekend trips to New York and to Cumberland, Maryland, where one of them lived, and we saw Washington together, explored it, and this is, we just...
And I understand there's 2 sets of twins here. You all, and tell us from left to right, can you see who that is?
Well, on the far right there is Helen from Cumberland, Maryland, and these two are the twins, Mary and Margaret Kashuba from California. And this
from folks at home on the right, at the end, the name is
Helen
Metz.
And the next 2 are twins. They're identical. You can see. And their names. And their names?
Mary and Margaret Kashuba.
Kashuba. And they were from
California.
And the next lady
is Ruth
Spivey.
She's married now.
Ruth Spivey.
And then that's the next one's Doris. And Dorothy.
Yes. You two on the far left.
Right.
What a fine-looking group of ladies, and you look absolutely gorgeous. You look like models, but yet you were in the Navy.
Right.
In the Navy for us. Waves. All righty, and the next picture. This is... Can you tell us about that? I'm sorry. Here we go.
This was
Actually,
known
where
as
we worked.
Arlington Farms, and that's where we,
That's the,
Oh, I'm sorry, right here.
excuse me.
There we go.
is that?
This
Yeah,
is
'cause that's it.
Hunter College in New York,
Hunter College in New
in
York
the
on the
Bronx,
screen.
New
Bronx,
York,
New York.
In the
and
Bronx.
that's where we took our basic training, boot training
right.
at that time.
And at basic training, what did they do, ladies? Did you have to run around and get in shape, or was it more secretarial skills? Or
It was just like being in college.
Uh-huh.
We
Right.
had classroom work mostly. We had physical education where we learned to march. We learned how to, we had
Pretty much of that.
exercises to get us in shape.
Oh, yeah, so
And
they
we
did
marched.
physically want you to get in shape and
Yeah,
marched
we marched,
around.
but we didn't do very much. I mean, as far as getting in for actual combat, no.
Yes, you
No,
weren't
no,
preparing.
no,
They did
no,
not
no,
send
no.
ladies to the front lines in
Our
World War II.
purpose was to prepare, you know, we replaced, they did not send any waves to replace the men. We were here, and none of them were, our purpose was to replace the men to go to sea.
Exactly, a freedom up. Let's see that next shot. Oh, beautiful.
That
this-
is boot
I said, when
at
we
Hunter
first-
College,
right.
and that's boot training, and that's all.
And Hunter College was in,
The Bronx, New York.
New York.
in Bronx,
We
New
were
York.
there 2 months.
So these ladies, for folks at home, they were in New York and Washington in 1946. And just in light of what's happened lately, I'm so glad you could come on the show and say, God bless America.
We worked and lived at the foot of the Pentagon. We
The
could
foot-
see the Pentagon
We could
while
see
we
it
were there.
from where we were.
Very close to the
We
Pentagon back
walked
then.
around all that.
And so this is your entire class.
Mhm.
How many ladies about? Looks like
I don't
30 something.
remember.
About 30 something.
But
Okay.
we were not the only ones there
No.
at that time.
This was just one class.
Right.
And next shot. Alrighty, can you see that? And that is this shot right here.
And that's,
Tell us about that.
This is where we lived, at Arlington Farms, just across from the Arlington Cemetery in Washington.
And it was like
uh,
a big dormitory.
It was called a hall. It was like a dormitory. This was all women, no men. And I think the Navy had 3 of them, approximately 3, and the rest were civilian workers.
So several hundred ladies in there together.
yeah.
Did you have telephones and television?
Oh, no, television wasn't invented then.
Obviously you didn't have television. And you didn't have video games.
No, no.
And you didn't have a microwave oven.
No.
But you didn't have, did
we
you have,
had mess halls. We went to eat at the mess hall.
did you have a telephone on every floor or in each room?
We had I think in the office or the lobby,
There was one telephone. So,
maybe in the hall. So.
yeah, teenagers at home, no cell phones for these young ladies.
That's right.
Who were not married and dateable age. So you couldn't call someone or you couldn't receive a phone call from your boyfriend. You had to go out to the USO or to these wonderful places. And they had lots of dances, I know.
Yes, they had a lot. We didn't go every night, but we went
Sometime
on
we'd
weekends
go.
on Friday nights.
And you were how old that year?
21.
21 years old. Oh, how fabulous to be in Washington and New York.
you had to be 21 to go in there.
Yes, you had to be 21. And the next shot is, oh, I love this.
Yes,
Tell us about this.
twins.
You want to tell them?
Well,
Where were you?
do you
We
remember?
were a restaurant in Washington.
Restaurant in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. Looks like you're having a
Just
ball.
before we retired, I think we're just getting ready to, what do we do? Get out.
Yeah, be discharged.
Be discharged.
Yes, so probably
And go home.
1947.
Yeah,
Yeah.
46.
46, I'm sorry.
46, yeah.
Well, you look like you were having a ball right there.
We were
went
the
out to
5th Battalion. We were the last ones that they went in the waves before it stopped. So they didn't take any more for a while, and then it became permanent part, but we were temporary part of the Navy.
Yes.
And we were the last battalion, the 5th Battalion, at the end of the war.
We were in Washington, D.C. when the war ended.
Right.
Good place to be. Everybody was celebrating.
Yes,
Oh,
we went
yes.
down that night, and oh boy, it was just really
Something
a
else.
crowd.
Do you remember when you first heard the news? When they said the war is over and everybody was celebrating? Where were you?
It was in the afternoon, and I was in what we had a laundry room ironing my uniform.
You remember
I'll always
distinctly
remember that.
Yes.
ironing your uniform, and the news probably came over the radio, I guess.
Yeah, on the radio, and someone came in and told us.
And so you went out that night, I'm sure, and celebrated.
And we
Hopefully,
went out and
Everybody was out.
walked the streets.
very happy we had lost so many
Everybody.
thousands of fine young men and some women. So that must have been a glorious day. And the next shot And I like this. The ladies brought this, and I said, let's put this up. It's an honorable discharge, and it's on a nice, thick vellum paper. It says Dorothy Mae Whitten. This is yours.
It's hers.
Yes, and you were a storekeeper 3rd class, and you have been honorably discharged from the U.S. Navy Personnel Separation Unit in Washington, D.C., and from the Naval Service of the United States this 6th day of June, 1946, and it was signed by Margaret S. Foster, a lieutenant in the U.S. Navy. I'm so proud you got this. I know all these keepsakes are fabulous for you. And do we have one more shot? I think we have a, here we go. Tell us about this. This was more recent.
In 1993, the 6 friends, close friends that you saw earlier, met in Florida for a reunion with our husbands, and we just had a good time. First time in, I think it was approximately 45 years or
45 years.
Yeah.
Or so. that
And we
had
all brought
seen.
our husbands.
So in the interim, all of you had married.
Yes.
And you brought your husbands
Yes,
along.
they were, see, there's
Yes,
pictures
yes.
of here and there. We had,
And we just really had a good time.
Fantastic. All right, that was the last shot. And now we're back on the set, and you brought some things from the newspapers. And you have, here's one, Double Duty Memories Fresh for Dorothy and Doris. Lorraine Frederick, the staff writer. I don't even know which paper this is from.
Lawrence Daily. It's not there.
Okay.
It's right here. Times Daily.
All righty, okay.
But this-
Memories Reunite Wartime Waves.
This was in '86. That was in '93.
1986 and 1993, comrades recall challenges and fears of World War II. Were you ever afraid, ladies, and I'll let you answer, that you might get a call and suddenly there was something else, a skirmish or a sort of a new war or a continuation, and you might be called overseas? Did that ever cross your mind?
no, our purpose was to release the men to go. That
Yes,
was-
so you knew you would get to stay in the
right.
States. and you would-
Later they changed that. After
Yes.
the war, and it became permanent part of the Navy, it's changed. But the waves were to replace the men to go to sea. We were not allowed to go to sea.
I know there were some really fun moments, and you got to meet a lot of
Oh,
people, and you got to travel. But what was the worst thing about joining up? There's got to be a downside to the service, and some people won't talk about it. What did you think was the downside?
Well, it's I don't know, but one of the things I remember, we were in boot camp training when we heard that President Roosevelt had died.
Oh, yes.
And
that was
I
a great
can
tragedy.
still see how some of them reacted.
Yes.
I remember one said, "Oh, like
A
that."
great sadness. But in this country, luckily, we're always able to pull together and spring back just like we
Right.
have recently. As we like to say, every beautiful Tuscumbia television show, we say, God bless America. I don't think we can say it enough. I am so thrilled that y'all got to come tonight.
Well, we were, I'll say this, we were stationed and lived there at Arlington at the foot of the Pentagon, and our training was in New York, which, where, of course, the towers weren't there then, but
Yes.
that's where we took our training. And we went back in June. She and I went this past year with the Lifewise on a trip to see Arlington like it is now. Every American should go and see President Roosevelt, the monument they had to him. The Korean field is like a whole battlefield with statues all over there. Vietnam Memorial.
Must be very touching.
He would flag over Iwo Jima. You would not believe it. So it's really worth it.
I would
going.
like to especially see the Vietnam memorial that's in
something else.
Blackstone.
We found a name from.
Yeah, my next door neighbor's name is on that, the last active duty person killed on in Vietnam. But my husband's military. For
been all
27 years he was in the Army, and we traveled all over. And my other son, other than Bill, spent 27 years in the Army. He retired in the last 2 years.
And
Since we were twins, I told everybody after the war was over, Dorothy met Charles while we in service. She married Charles and went all over the world. And I married Robert Smith and went down to Oakland. About the way it is. Only he was in Belgian Bulge and guarded the Nuremberg trials. So we both, and we service.
Well, tell us about your families right now. You're both married, and your children are?
Bill Cox and Wesley Cox.
And Wesley.
And they live here and have 5 grandchildren.
You live here in the Shoals. You have 5 grandchildren. And your
Right.
husband's name?
Charles.
Charles. And tell us about
My
your family.
husband was in, as I said, he was in 1st Division in the Army, and he's Robert G. Smith, come from down around Oakland. And we have a son, Gainham, who is teaching in a coach at Bradshaw. And then we have another son, Randy, who lives in the country. Got the cutest little boy you ever saw.
Proud grandmother.
Yeah, we had Robin, and she lives in Reno, Nevada. I had 3 sons and 1 daughter. She's the one that lives away from you.
Yes.
And then Christopher Smith is the lawyer. He is the Lauderdale County attorney and a lawyer. And
I'm so glad y'all could
grandkids
come
and all that.
and share everything with us.
I'm also in the ways in the Sweet Adelines. I'll just tell you that.
Fantastic.
That's an international.
The Sweet
barbershop firm.
Adelines got together for Schultz Christian Women's Group a year or so ago, and I'm on the board out there, and I got to hear you all sing, and it was fabulous. For you at home that ever would like a group of lovely ladies who are extremely talented and even did some cute comedy things. Some of you were dressed up, you and the Sweet Adelines.
Yeah, that's an internet. It's worldwide now.
Oh, is it?
Now it's all over now. It is a barbershop for women, and it meets on Monday night.
Fantastic. I'm
Dr.
so
Kate
glad
Kirsten's
you could
our
come
director.
tonight. And I do want you to come back in a few months, and we're going to catch up on not only what you did back then, but I want to hear about what's going on in your lives today, because these 2 ladies are active and vibrant, and you look like you're about 30 years younger than you really are.
Thank you. I play golf,
Oh, do you?
and I love it. That's my, it keeps me busy. And I
She-
bowl,
she
but
plays
I bowl with Nita.
Golf, and besides babysitting, I'm in a High Notes, which is a singing group. We go to nursing home. I've been to this morning. Assistant living and nursing homes and places like that.
Well, you 2 are extremely active,
Well,
and that
we are.
keeps you young looking. Thank you again for coming on
Thank
Beautiful
you for having
Tuscumbia. I
us.
want you to come back another night. Stay tuned, folks, because we'll be back. We're going to do a little ice cream cooking segment, and we're also going to draw the shopping spree.